So today we're going to turn some 2x3s and some 1x4s, 1x6s, I'm sorry, into this beautiful L-shape desk and small bookcase combination, right? Mm-hmm. So stick around, we're going to show you everything to know so you can build this yourself. So we went to the blue store and we bought our lumber, or did we went to the orange store?
Orange.
Went to the orange store and we put our lumber. And we are going to build the deck with some 1x6, correct? Pieces of lumber, yes, no?
Yeah.
And we are going to build it from some 2x3s. So this is all the lumber that we're going to use for the desk. And we may or may not use a piece of thin plywood. That depends on the finalizing the design that I haven't finalized yet. So the first step, we decided that the width of our desk will be 60 inches, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing we're going to do is cut those boards to 60 inches. Okay? And we're going to do that. We're going to be 4 or 5 boards wide. What did we say? I think 4 boards, right?
I think so.
So we're going to cut 4 more boards in this dimension. So we put a stop there, and that's 60 inches to our cut point. And you need to be consistent because the boards might be a little off from each other, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to go from an edge of the board to the distance you cut. Don't just subtract from the other side the distance. Right. Because that can give you incorrect measurements.
Yeah, because they could have been cut wrong at the factory.
Well, I don't think we've ever bought boards that were identical in length. So just a small tip when you do something like that. So now we have our 4 pieces and we are going to get into connecting them. So we have set the first of our boards on our Greg jig, and we have set the Greg to 3/4 on both the depth and the width of the board, right? There are 2 settings. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do, what did we say, about 4 pockets on each board?
Yeah, I think 4 each, one every 12 inches or so.
And we're going to do one on close to one each end, so we'll close them. Mm-hmm. And 2 more, right?
Yep.
Equal space as we can do them. So we're going to start this process and we'll be right with you. So here we are set to start the process. And we have set our Greg jig in the correct dimensions as we said. And also we have put scraps right and left because these are reasonably long pieces of material. So we do not have any tilting that would prevent the board from sitting nice and square on the jig. Right?
Right. We don't want it flip-flopping.
Right. And we're going to we decided to go with 5 holes, right?
Yep.
1 in the middle, 1 of each end, that will make it 3, and then 1 between the middle and the end, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're doing it not in that direction now, we'll just go one way. And the one on the end, you don't want it too far in because you do want it to close the end, right?
Right.
But you don't want it very close to the end either because that might split your wood.
Right.
So that one is can we use the word tweaking? Now another option to connect these boards, of course, will be with using dowels, right?
Yeah.
When you don't use dowels, and actually when you do use dowels, you want the assembly to be in a very, very flat surface. All right, we'll be right back. So here we are, we have made pocket holes in all the boards, and you might notice that this board has more pocket holes, and that's because we made a mistake. And actually, I don't think we made a mistake. Our drill bit stop moved without us realizing it, and you can see this has gone all the way through which of course is not good because the pocket hole has nothing. This area that's supposed to hold it.
It won't hold the screw.
Right, there is nothing to hold.
So we re-drilled another one very close to the first one.
After we fix the problem. And now we're going to use glue and the pocket screws to assemble it. And we're going to be right, friends. And we have finished assembling the top. Now we're looking at the underside of the top, right? You see our pockets here. And while the pockets are holding strong enough, we have clamped it, and we're going to let the glue dry for at least 30-40 minutes before we do anything else.
Right, it's very important that we have really tight connections between the boards so that there's no seams showing.
So if you buy dimensional lumber like a 2x4, you will have to save off the little chamfer, right? These boards do not have a chamfer.
I don't know what a chamfer is.
The little curve, like this. All the dimensional boards come rounded.
Okay, so the edge that's rounded is called a chamfer.
Right, and you need to,
Okay.
if you want to attach them without seeing it, I mean, you might like the line between them, but if you want to avoid that line, you need
Yeah,
to...
but the ones we bought are very square.
Right, because they're not dimensional lumber. For example, here you can see it. Even in a perfect connection, you will always see it because the little chamfer here creates a
Yeah,
little V
but
groove.
that can be a design element
Right, that's what it says. So it depends on what you want. All right, we'll be right back. So with our top finished, we start making the frame. I guess that's what we're going to call it, right? So here we have our one of our two top pieces, and we have it upside down or downside up. I guess it's the same thing. And we are doing a dry fit of one of the frames, right? Again, nothing is connected yet. And we're using 2x3s because, I mean, this is, I think, an interesting point. The reason we're using 2x3s is because we want it to be lighter than 2x4s. And again, because we're cheap. 2x3s are cheaper than 2x4s.
Slightly.
Oh, actually, quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sadly. In any case, we're going to use pocket screws to attach it to the top when we're done, or I might use clips. I haven't decided 100% yet, so I guess I shouldn't say anything yet. We're going to use something to attach to the top.
Okay.
Watch the whole video to find out what. And here is our prep work. Once again, we're using our favorite clamps here. They have been invaluable to us in many projects, right? And we're using already our project because frankly we don't have a work table that's long enough, right? So we're using our two...
The desktop.
No.
Oh. Our sawhorses.
We're using sawhorses, and we put some wax paper down so we're not going to have an over glue. We're using glue and we're going to use screws to put this together, and probably we're going to overbuild it a little bit, but that's okay with me. You know, I don't mind it. We're also going to make pilot holes because we do not want to risk splitting our wood. All right, so we're going to do that in all four corners, and we'll get to you for the next step.
Well, go for it. We're ready.
All right, and we're going to do the second one. Again, we didn't show you all of them, but we have 2 screws per
side, and this is our last corner.
Let's see if I can do this. There is a knot here, so I'm afraid to overdo it. Yeah, he won't do it.
Okay.
So we don't want to. All right, good.
But now
so
we
now we have, this is secure, as it were, right?
Yep, all 4 of these are secure, and we can remove the clamps.
We can indeed.
Okay.
All right, friends, so we are finished with the second frame. Now the frame is completely assembled, but nothing is attached to the top of the table yet, right? And we want to point out this detail to you guys. This stands in for one of the legs. It's not going to be that short. This
Let's
is
hope
just
not.
the dimension.
Then it's not really a leg, it's a stub.
And the reason we did it this way, Alpita, do you want to explain why we did it this way? No?
No, you.
No, me? So the reason we did it this way was twofold. First, because we want to provide some support here. You might want to come over. This is where the two pieces connect, and we didn't want that to be free floating, right?
Right.
And the other purpose was,
So in essence, this piece will go right across that gap.
right. And the other reason is we're going to have a leg here, and having a leg here means that we couldn't come all the way across to connect like we do here, right?
Right.
So in order to do this correctly, we created a little bit of an adjustment to our frame. It doesn't really compromise the frame strength. It's still attached and glued. No problems there, right?
Right.
So the next step will be legs.
Well, and ultimately, if you decide you want a supporting leg in that corner, you can either put one here because we've already got the space for it, or you could potentially put it on the outside as well. There's space for it either way, right?
Yes,
Okay.
there's all kinds of space.
Spaces.
Again, so far we've used nothing but a saw and a screwdriver, not a screwdriver, a driver. But you could use a screwdriver and a handsaw, right?
You could, it's just going to take you a lot longer.
Right. So let's go on. Now we're going to move on to the legs. So our legs will be cut 28 inches, and it is traditional for tables to be between 27 to 30 inches in height. So we went not quite the middle route, but it's 28 inches plus, I think it's 3/4 of an inch for the thickness of the top.
Yes.
So that's almost 29 inches. And that's the dimension we decided to go. And again, the dimension is not as critical. So if we're an eighth off, it's not a big deal. So here again, we set up our stop. So we set it at 28 inches, we think. We didn't extra spend time to make sure it was exactly on the dot, right? Because again, it's more important that all legs are the same length than that they're the exact length.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, so even if we're off by a 1/8 of an inch, they'll all be off by the same 1/8
So
of an
they will
inch.
be the same length.
Right.
All right, so we're going to cut that and be right with you.
Yep. Good.
We'll need at least 6 legs,
Yes.
maybe 8.
And again, we're making sure they're flush.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
When we're cutting, we're making sure that we are flush with that board, which is our stop. We're coming there, it's flush, and then we can go back, and again, we know that all of them will be equal. Okay, so we'll get the rest of those cut up and come on back.
So we start assembling the legs, as you can see, and we're using wood glue and 2 screws. And the screws, we try to put them on both pieces. I mean, if you come on the back here. So we try to put 1 screw there and 1 screw there, so we have support on both pieces. If for some reason we find this to be wobbly, we can add another screw or 2. I think for now it should be okay, especially since we're going to have other members too.
Like a cross piece
Right.
to help stabilize it. Okay.
So, but for now I think we're good. We're going to do this process.
And another thing that we did was just to have this piece here to help us make sure that we were in alignment with the edge and make sure that we're staying, just staying square there.
Right.
Okay.
All right. All right, friends, and here we are. We are almost finished. I want to put a couple of shelf units on, and a shelf. Although I was start thinking maybe I will put them independent shelves on wheels so the printer can come out. You know.
That maybe.
So, anyway, we wanted to show you where we are and point out a couple of details. You can see the main structures here, and you can see that we have really nice tight connections between the boards that we have not planed or do any other prep. We bought them and we put them together. In order to achieve that, we actually use pocket screws. So pocket screws are a good way overall to make this kind of connections, right?
Right. And then we also use.
We also put pocket screws here. Keep in mind, of course, this is upside down, so this is not going to be visible when we're done.
Right. So this will be the bottom side
Right.
of the piece, the cross piece.
Right. So, that's all, folks.
all.
Well, okay, I forgot. And we're using this little gauge to make sure that our reveal is the same throughout, right?
Right, so that's helping us stay on center, also helping us with making sure we're doing the correct measurements as we're measuring all the pieces here. And then it's also what we used
Right, and
for this reveal here.
for aesthetic purposes, when you use the same reveals, the same distances, things tend to look better, you know? So even though this is technically not a reveal, we still use the 2 inch that we use throughout the piece, right?
And then it's consistent across all of these pieces.
And here we're going to put an extra piece, we've not do it, but we're going to screw it between here from both sides because we want this to be able to be taken apart, right?
Right, so this middle piece will be attached to this, and then once we start assembling the side piece to the other desk, this underskirt will get attached here, and then it will be easily removable should we need to move the desk again.
Right, which I hope we won't, but... And you don't have to do that. I mean, it would be a simple construction if you didn't make it to come apart. We tend to move in our lifetime, so I thought maybe it would be a good idea to make it so we can take it apart, and it will make it easier to put it in the office and everything, you know, it's like...
Yeah, for sure. Instead of trying to do all the wiggling around to get it in there.
And definitely easier to paint and stain
Yes.
if it is not all together, right?
Yes.
All right, folks, so we're going to move to the next step. We're going to show you what we do next, and we'll be right back. So we're going to use our track saw to make sure that we have a perfect edge. Yeah, clear it. So we're using our track saw to clean the edge, and before we do the cut, we're going to figure out how to use our edge. And the reason we do that is because we're taking a sliver of the system here, right? And it is important that this is flush, and we did that on both ends to ensure that everything looks good.
And then now you can see that this edge is clean and straight. And so we'll do that on the other side as well to make sure both of them are clean, and then we'll sand.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
There. All right.
Oh, there's the edge. Here's the little tiny pieces that we took off. Here we go. That was fantastic. Here we go.
And the reason we show you this is to see how little, but how horrible that would look.
Yeah.
As an extension, I mean.
Right. Very, very tiny, but it made all the difference just to clean up that edge and make sure it was nice. And
also when we're designing, that's why we didn't put the pocket screws much closer there. Because we wanted to make sure we have a nice way to clean it, right?
Right.
And the thing is with those, no matter how careful you are, it will be very, very hard to be perfect, right? This is where a track saw excels. In fact, I think that was much easier than if we've used our table saw.
Oh, for sure.
So, you know, some people...
Super nice.
What happened? Oh, okay.
I'm just showing them again.
I mean, some people don't like track saws, but I cannot imagine a better tool to do what we just did, right?
Me either. Me either.
This was just amazing.
Okay. So now we're sanding?
Now we're going to sand it, and doing it outside will be nicer for our lungs and making a mess in the shop. So we're really using the deck that we built a few weeks ago. All right, let the games begin. About something, and this is this, which may or may not look in the camera like there is a gap. Actually, there is no gap, as you can see here. It is very tight. What it is a difference in thickness between the boards, and that is one of the risks you run when you use this kind of boards, right? Now, we have a planer, and if I was smart, I would have planed them in the same thickness, but I didn't, and frankly, I didn't think about it. But we're going to use the sander, and you can use a plane as well, like a hand plane. We used to have a power planer. I think we left it back in the other shop. But as you can see, we have two boards that they are not, you see, it catches.
Yeah. And this one over here is really good.
Yeah. So we're going to try and sand it, and if that doesn't work, we're going to plane it.
Yeah.
Raffle paper, that's too fine.
Okay, we can get it.
Okay. So you can see the difference that the sanding makes. And we're going to use the same method as we used before, but you can see that the big heavy
Ridges.
ridge shadow has disappeared. And as you can see now, we can actually go through with our gauge. And if you remember before, it will just immediately stop.
Yeah,
Right?
so we had that right here and right here where they both had pretty heavy ridges. This one was pretty good, but I still took it down a little bit with the sanding. And now we've used that 60 grit to take it all down so it's all smooth, and now we're going to put back on a more fine grit and finish sand it, as well as the other piece as well.
So remember, on sandpaper, the smaller the number, the heavier the grit. In other words, the more aggressive and abrasive the
Right.
paper will be, right? So you start with small numbers and you move towards higher numbers. And you can go up to 1,000 or 1,200 grit, and you use that if you're into very fine painting surfaces.
Painting, I like that one.
Painting and surfaces.
Yes,
You didn't like that?
I did.
So
Okay.
this is ready for a little final sanding. And probably we're going to final sand the big piece.
Yes, we need
Well,
to.
friends, the sanding is finished, and we're ready to stain the top. We're going to stain the top, and we're going to paint the rest, right?
The legs.
So we're going to do that so the stain can be drying as we finish the construction and paint the legs. So we're going to do that, but first I wanted to show you our newly, and we're going to plan to sell that. It will be a sellout. This is our new protein.
Protein powder.
No, it isn't?
Well, it's very full of fiber, I'll say that.
Right. This is actually sawdust from our
From the sander.
sander, and you might think, what's wrong with him? Why he's collecting sawdust? Peter, do you want to tell our viewers why we're collecting sawdust?
Because we can use it to fill in gaps when we need
Right.
to, and it's much more fine. It's a very fine powder as opposed to using like sawdust, which has still a lot of fiber in it and is a little
Correct.
harder. So this will be a more fine
So-
thing to fill those gaps in.
So just the tip, that's what she said, about how you can keep that, and you can mix it with glue that is stainable and paintable, and it makes a much better filler than anything else, right?
Yeah.
So we use all our screws from this container, and these containers are very nice because they're stackable.
And I like the way the lids open and close too.
It's almost like grated cheese, right?
Yeah.
So we keep that. We just wanted to share that piece of information.
Yep.
And back to work. We're going to start the staining process. So hopefully we won't run out of daylight. Right?
Yep. Hopefully.
And again, I love how stain immediately changed the character of the book, of the
book, yes.
of the wood and the book. Now, for those of you that might be new, we prefer to use paper towels for our staining rather than a brush, right?
Yes.
And if you want a deeper stain, you just repeat the process. You let it dry a bit, and then the more coats you do, the darker it will be. So we're going to stain the top pieces. We're not going to stain the undersurface because I totally see no reason for it. It's extra stain and extra work for no good reason. And we're going to paint the
The leg.
the legs white and the rest of the piece white, which will give us a very nice contrasting look, I believe, right?
Yeah. And it's a very popular look right now.
But you can see immediately how nice it makes the wood look, and of course you cannot smell how nice it smells, but
Oh, it's horrible.
it isn't horrible.
It is horrible. You remember my experience last weekend with nasty perfumes? This
It
why
is
it's horrible.
nice. And look how nice that looks. Wow. It makes it like a totally different piece, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely.
All right, folks, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Now, this is a cut that you can do with a hand saw as well, right? Mm-hmm. So it still keeps very minimal tools. We just try to speed up for recording purposes. And we're notching this. This is one of our self units.
Right?
And we're notching this so it will look flush. We're going to put it flush with our leg.
Yep.
And here is one of our shelves. We're going to have two shelves. You're looking at it upside down now, but we're going to have another shelf there, right?
Yes.
So it will be here for taller. This will be a little shorter.
Right. And this is just to show you that the board got notched out and it fits snugly around the leg.
Well, it could be a little more snug, but
It could be, but
we are tired.
yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so the board will actually be sitting here, and then the next one will be sitting here, because right now everything is upside down, of course.
Right.
But we're just showing you how they will fit.
Exactamente.
All right.
So here we are. The first coat of white has been applied, and we think we're going to put a second coat, right, Lupita?
Yeah.
So this has to dry. Unfortunately, part of building something like that is you have to have downtime, right? Mm-hmm. And we did try to minimize our downtime, but still we end up with a little bit of downtime. This, I would say, is a 2-day project, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, probably if you woke up in the morning and do it the whole day, you might be able to do it in 1 day, but I definitely think you shouldn't rush the painting process and the drying process.
Right. Right.
So a 2-day project is a better fit for this.
Mm-hmm.
So next we're going to do the second coat, and the last part will be the assembly.
Yep.
And we're going to put poly on the top, but that is not something we're necessarily going to show.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
poly, there are a lot of videos about how to apply poly. It applies just like paint or wipe, you know.
Right. It's just the clear coat to protect the
Right.
finish.
So stay right back. We're almost at the end of this fun project. Well, this is bringing us to the end of this episode, and this is our final product. And Elpida, what do you think?
I think it's turned out very nice. It's really, really good.
Definitely is what I had in mind when I designed this. Mm-hmm. It is probably the most evolved or the most advanced project we've shown in the channel. Mm-hmm. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty involved.
But it is really, really nice.
Yeah.
The only other thing we're going to do is we're going to polyurethane it, but as I said before, either wipe it on or you brush it on, so there is no point in showing you that. It will just be the same thing, a little glossier and more protected, right?
So this top, it'll just bring out the gloss a little bit.
Right. Mm-hmm. So this project cost us about $80, a little over $80 in today's cost of materials, and it is May 2021, where wood prices are way out of whack, right?
And we're in North Carolina.
We are in North Carolina, so you could not buy something similar for close to that.
Right.
And definitely wouldn't be as strong. It would be probably particle board, and it would be, you know, cheaply put together and not exactly what you want. We made this to fit an exact space.
Right.
And it might look a little low to you right now, especially because we have very tall surfaces next to it. But if you think that I will be seated, this is actually the appropriate size, right? Mm-hmm. So we hope this is something that you're going to tackle yourselves, and if you do, send us some pictures, let us see it.
Yep, we'd love to see it.
We hope you did enjoy this episode. We definitely enjoy building it, and we do enjoy the final outcome, right? The final project.
Yeah.
If you did enjoy it, we'll appreciate a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. If you didn't, the other button works as well. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know what else you would like to see, and if you enjoy projects like that. From Dr. Wizard, Elpida, and the Urban Homesteading Channel, wash your hands, put your masks on, and stay safe so we can see you again midweek with another fun video. Stay safe, friends.